everyone. My name is Karina Mascott. I'm the Director of Operations and Communications for the GNCC. Welcome to our first Grow to Greatness virtual seminar. You may remember this series as Lunch and Learn, but with the changing times, we have had to adapt. So thank you so much for joining us today. We are so fortunate to be able to have the support of YMCA of Niagara to be able to bring you this seminar. We want to thank them for their ongoing support. They have many free services for those who are seeking employment, as well as services for employers. So we highly recommend that you check them out at ymcaofniagara.org. And we'll send you a direct link in the follow-up email. Some housekeeping items. So you will have the opportunity to ask questions during the webinar. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see the chat function. Please use that to send us your questions. Our presenter, Dianne, has also offered up a free 20-minute consultation to all who are in attendance. So please be expected to be contacted by her. If you do not wish to be contacted for your consultation, please reply to the Eventbrite email with your ticket or email me at corina@gncc.ca. Amy will put my email in the chat. So today we have Dianne Ellis joining us for this presentation. She is the owner of HeartMind Healing Centre. She's been a holistic life coach for the past 18 years, specializing in work-life balance, anxiety and stress management, meditation, coping techniques, and communications and trust building. She's created a business wellness cafe online where she interviews entrepreneurs and small businesses. And she's also created Self-Care Wednesdays, and you can catch that on Facebook Live. We'll make sure to send you the links in the follow-up email of how to tune in. So now, without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Dianne.
All right, wonderful, I'm here. So hello everyone, thanks Rita for introducing me and offering this opportunity for me to meet members and to offer what it is that I do. I've been doing this for 20 years and it's been a love of mine because I believe that understanding where we are, using our own compass to determine our stressors is a key in how we become and continue to become more resilient. So I tend to teach people how to really get in tune with themselves because especially now we're going through such a stressful time. It's universal stress that we could easily see as a complex trauma scenario. I know that's a huge title to give it, because it means that something's happening to us that we can't necessarily control. And yes, this is an invisible enemy that we're all trying to cope with. And I would like to instead look at this experience as something that will help us to get through and go deeper into understanding how to rebalance ourselves and how to continue and maintain ourselves in these difficult times. And what that means for us as business individuals is that it's an important time for us to step up to understanding what's important to us. Yes, business is important because that's how we connect ourselves to the outside world, offering the gift that we have, whatever your gift may be, whether you do a brick and mortar or you do something online. If you work with your hands or you work primarily with your thoughts, your mind to write information out, send it out to the world. It's important for us to touch base right now about how we connect because we've been disconnected. And that can be a real harsh truth for human beings because we require the connection of ourselves to each other to stay healthy and well, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever your faith may be. And it's important for us to note that. Those are the grounding networks that we need to keep in place for ourselves as individuals. And it's such a challenging time, and I can certainly relate to it. So today I want to go over a little bit what the overview of this talk will be. It will touch on what I just mentioned, but I also want to leave you with approximately 5 tips for self-care. I may give you 3 bonuses at the end. As well, I'll look at how it is that we have in common so many things. So just like you, what are we experiencing together in COVID scenarios? And we'll talk about resilience because that'll touch more deeply on the 8 tips or 5 tips with the 3 bonus. Another thing we'll touch on is how does getting to know yourself help you in growing yourself and your business at the same time, especially now? And knowing what your stresses are and the importance of that, the key importance of that. So looking at how we connect as individuals, our communities has changed so drastically as a result of the call for our across the board, across the country in March, especially here in Ontario, the change in shifts from active businesses, going outside, traveling around wherever you want to, exposing yourself, your face, your hands, etc., practicing regular hygiene, but not as hyper as we're doing it now. And I mention this because it's important to know where we start, where we are now. That's part of the reality that we need to kick in for ourselves and really ground ourselves in that, accept that, and then we can grow from that. And proper self-care techniques can then grow from there. So just like you, this is a historical moment for me. And again, the complex trauma aspect of it is that we're experiencing it together. Never before have we experienced this type of connection, because it is connecting us, make no doubt about that. It is connecting us while at the same time dividing us in a lot of ways, because it keeps us isolated. And that can be very scary for a self-employed individual or individuals who are used to going out and connecting for work or for play or for just hanging out with friends. We've been told to stay indoors. And that's a harsh reality for our mind to embrace. Our brain right now is suffering from the whole fear aspect of this. What are we dealing with here? What's to come? And that can be a scary thing. But what I teach my students all the time and my clients who come to me for stress management and anxiety techniques and tips about how to cope with day-to-day is to, yes, focus on the day-to-day, because only today do you have control. You have control on what it is that you do and choose to do in this moment, in this time. So important things like breath will be taken note as we go on. So your own personal impact is important for you to take note of. Look inside yourself to find out what it is that's important for you. Is it community? Is it friends? Is it family? How close are you with your family at this point? Because yes, support networks are key to your resilience. What is the business impact for you regarding this scenario that we're all experiencing right now during this time? Business impacts such as close your stores, close your brick and mortar. Are you something that is necessary right now? Or can you close and all the other essential businesses are being kept open all the way through? How do they take care of themselves? How do we understand where we are right now, if not to look at ourselves and look at the surrounding scenarios that are happening in our communities locally here in the region? Because our communities are changing, and I would venture to say it has completely changed the way we see ourselves and the way we see our communities. It's pulled us together, it's connected us together. So just like you, I've experienced an impact on my personal sense of self. As well, my business has also been impacted because now I'm primarily online. So it's interesting how things have shifted over the past 4 months. And now that we're going into opening up, what does that mean for us as individuals and as businesses? Ask yourself that. Because yes, Ontario is open for business, but what does that mean for each and every one of us? How open are we for business? And it's about also accepting how we want to be open for business while adhering to the fact that we want to keep ourselves safe and keep our customers and clients safe as well. So that's important for you to take note. Always remember that you decide what you need to do for your business, but it's important for you to note that you're in a community of other businesses, a community of other individuals that you need to also take a real hard look at how you connect, because that's part of committing to connecting with others and continuing to do that as human beings. that we note what others are going through, their struggles, their concerns, their fears, and acknowledge your own fears in the meantime, and understand the broader scope. How do we want to work together as a community of businesses, individuals, families, networks to keep each other safe? So the impact on our business is great, and resilience is key. So looking at your self-care routine, I'd like to say this: start with your breath. Now, it's important for us to ground ourselves each day. And that's one of the first tips I'll give you. Look at how you breathe. That will tell you how you're coping with a particular scenario, a particular stressor. Something that you may not even know that you're stressing about can be a stressor to you. And what does that do? Especially if it's subliminal, if you don't take note of it, which is why your breath tells you how to go deeper inside your body. Keep connecting to your body, because that's the key to staying well. Your immune system depends on it. Right now, pay attention to how your breath can keep you aware of your immune system. So taking a moment right now, I'm just going to give you a few tips on how to breathe. Just take a moment right now where you're sitting. Notice how you're breathing. Are you breathing shallow? And if you are, make a note of it in the chat. If you're breathing deep, again, share that with us. And if you're breathing in a jagged way, make note of that as well. It's important to take note right now because we're going to do this exercise again at the end, okay? We're going to tap into it. All right, so if you're breathing shallow, that means you're going through a stressor right now. If you're breathing deeper, you're more engaged with your lungs. That means that you're giving your brain oxygen in order to then help you to focus more clearly. And that can be right now because we're not all operating at our optimal best because we're all stressed in different ways, some of us more so than others. The third, if you're breathing in a jagged way, that means that you're in a bit of a fight or flight mode, okay? So that means that you're thinking about how can you escape. You're not saying it to yourself, but that's what your body is saying, okay? So make note of that and let me know if that speaks to anyone here. You can send it to me privately if you wish. All right, moving on. So let's go through the tips. I touched on breathing, and I'll take you through an exercise of breathing right now. So notice your breath, and you're gonna place your hands on your belly, and you clasp your hands over top of each other, okay? So your left hand on your belly, your right hand on top of that. And your feet are placed evenly on the floor, okay? And your back nice and smooth against the back of the chair. You're going to breathe in deep into your belly through your nose. Make sure you're breathing into your nose, deep down, expanding your belly into the palm of your hands, and exhaling out smoothly without pause, okay? You can take a moment of pause once you're shifting from internal to external, but that's it, okay? We're just gonna do about 5 breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Now close your eyes. Inhale. Exhale. We're going to do that 3 more times, smoothing out, dropping the elbows down away from the ears. Now again, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, keeping your eyes closed, softening your eyelids now. And final time, inhale. Now with this exhale, soften behind the ears, along the side of the neck. As you exhale, drop the elbows even further away from your ears. Notice a shift. It's a subtle shift from where you were 5 breaths ago. Take note of that, and if that helped you at this time, let me know again in private if you choose. So when you breathe deeply, you're allowing yourself to start your daily routine of care. So one of the first things you want to do in the morning is to wake up and breathe. Notice where your breath is. And as you transition out of bed, placing your feet on the floor, notice the grounding of your feet on the floor. Something as simple as that can make a difference to starting your day. So the second thing I'd like to say is create a daily routine. Connect is the third. The fourth would be to take a break, go outside for vitamin D. That's important. If you have a garden, sit outside. Connect with the nature of things around you. Just by looking, if you choose to, or if you have plants or enjoy plants, touch your plants, be with your plants, enjoy your surroundings. Take a note of what it is that you're experiencing. That's connection. Check your thoughts as well. One of the things that we tend to do as small business people, we live in our minds quite a bit. And we're thinking and planning and organizing and making sure everything is perfect. But there's no such thing as perfection in anything, whether it's in us as part of nature, because we are connected to nature. As a result, we are aware of the fact that we're not perfect. Ideally, we should be aware of that. But unfortunately, we seem to think that we need to be perfect at all times, and that's impossible. Nothing's like that. Nature isn't perfect, okay? I invite you to now think of your imperfections as a beautiful thing. So when your thoughts run amok and you think you need to be perfect, try and see if you can take yourself back to your breath. Breathe in and out of your lungs through your nose. And just say to yourself something positive that will inspire you at that time, because negative thoughts do come to fruition. So why not make your thoughts positive? You have that choice, especially in these times. It's important to note your emotions at this time. If you're going through a roller coaster, if you're feeling sad, it's not about denial when we focus on positivity. It's about acceptance and it's about forgiveness. So check your thoughts, forgive yourself for your negative thoughts, and then try and see if you can transition into a way in which you perceive things around you, because it's in our perceptions that determines how we feel. So remember that, keep that clear in your mind. And remember when it is that you're going through those difficult times, note your feelings, note your emotions, and let yourself feel what you need to feel. And it's important for you to understand that it's important that this is a structure that you start to put in place for yourself. I'll tell you the 3 bonuses after the fact. So, moving on. We're looking at how does getting to know yourself help you to grow yourself as a business person? Well, all of you took the stress test, and as you know, your results will give you that 20 minutes to consult and get that gift of the results and a plan that you can start to put into place. So knowing your stressors is key to helping you to make better decisions. So one of the key things that I tell small business individuals or entrepreneurs who come to see me is to allow themselves to ask for help. Knowing when to ask for help is a real challenge for most of us, because we're so used to being in control and investing in the proper help that we need. And it's important for us to look into cost-free, as low cost as possible when we're looking for help in these times, because we're all being challenged in how we budget and how we take care of our businesses, as well as our families and our individual needs. So it's important for us to be able to think clearly. And yes, knowing your stressors will help you to do that. Another thing, knowing your stressors will also help you to improve your customer services and your relations. So your relationships will improve once you know what your stressors are. Another thing, knowing when to say no. If you know when to say no, then you'll know that you're putting your energy into the things that nurture you, the activities that nurture you. And if you're looking at it as it pertains to your business, you'll know what to choose for your business. So knowing how to say no. Knowing how to say yes also comes into play. You realize, wow, I know how to spot what I want to do, as opposed to what someone else tells me I have to do, even though it's working against me. I know now how to put my energy into this. I'm saying yes to this instead of that. And you'll be able to choose more easily. If you found yourself on the quiz not being sure about how to choose which one best suits you, that's okay. If you chose more than one choice for a particular question, that's okay. You may be a blend of those things, but you never know. It might also have to do with where you are right now in the position where you are in relation to what we're all experiencing stressfully at this time. When we experience a lot of stress, it's sometimes hard to make a decision. And sometimes a quiz can be a little bit challenging in understanding and hearing what's being said. If you're being asked directly by someone a question, it's hard to hear it, and you ask the person to repeat it more than enough times, and that's okay to a certain degree, but it also is a key as to whether or not your mind at this time is able to determine a yes or a no, or to choose specifically what it is that's good for you. Another thing, you have to learn how to love your mistakes. Failures are good, and you're wondering, why is she saying that? Failures are not good. I don't want to fail. I don't want to show that I did something wrong and it amounted to this, and I can't fail. My family's expecting this, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. However, it is in our mistakes and in our failures that we get a better sense of what it is that we need to grow. How we grow is dependent on the lessons that we learn from our mistakes. Growing you into who you need to be on your path at this time is key. And as a person, it's important for you to understand what your purpose is with each step, but also learning how to trust yourself. So in learning your mistakes and learning what your quote unquote failures are, it's really in a strong way, less because you're learning how best to be resilient. So with that said, I'd love for you to put some notes in the chat to let me know whether or not any of this information has helped you. And so at this time, I'm going to check in before we go to our Q&A. I'm going to check in on how you're breathing right now. How are you breathing right now? All right. And even though it's a challenging time right now, I think it's important and key for you to make note that your breath will always tell you what you're feeling. And we've come to the end of our talk. So again, let me know what you think down below. Good to see deep and even here. Thanks, Brad. Wonderful. Yeah, they do connect. Thanks for that thought. Yeah.
So we're just getting some chats from some of our attendees saying the connection, love the connection of knowing my stressors and my business success. So just to kind of kick off the question and answer period, Dianne, maybe I can just throw a question your way.
Sure.
I know a lot of us business people feel like we're so busy, and it's like, how can I even fit one of these tips that you gave us in? So is there one that you would suggest, if there's only one thing you can fit in, what would it be?
I would say your breath. I've mentioned it a few times throughout, but I would highlight that right now with your question, Karina, because a lot of the times when folks come to see me, they don't realize that their breathing is cut off and that they're breathing in their chest. And a lot of times they're using their accessory muscles to breathe, when in fact we need to go deeper. When we go deeper, we actually access the oxygen that we need to continue and create the momentum and the stamina that we need to fulfill our day. When we cut it off and keep it in our bodies, in our chest area, that tends to limit the amount of focus and stamina that we need for our day to be successful, as just being able to interact and to be there for our families and our, if you have grandkids, you can't be there for your grandkids. You can't be there for your wife or husband or kids in general, right? So
Right.
Create that focus, yes. And another tip I'd say as well, hydrate. That's very
Okay.
important for oxygen buildup. Yeah. Mhm.
I recently saw a post on the internet sort of talking about that breathing and talking about meditation and how people often get it wrong. It's not thinking about anything. I'm sure a lot of the entrepreneurs here on the webinar are thinking, I can't turn my brain off. But it's
Yeah.
more about sort of channeling those thoughts towards your breath. Is that correct?
Yes, it is channeling your thoughts towards your breath. That means focusing on your breath. I would also add that it's important to notice as your breath is entering your nose, that's the point that you want to take yourself back to. Because we'll never be able to empty our thoughts from our minds. It's about noticing the thought and letting it go and breathing anyways. It's about allowing ourselves just to release the need to attach to a perfect moment. It's about seeing the moment and letting it go. And so our breath can guide us if you focus in on us on your nose, the entrance of your nose. And if your mind wanders, just take it right back to that.
Keep thinking about the breath. Okay, great.
Yeah.
We have a question coming in here. So you had mentioned that there were 5 steps to self-care routine. Can you repeat those, please, Dianne?
Yes. Well, the 5 steps are create a daily routine, definitely. But there's the breath we mentioned, connecting to your environment, taking a break, going outside is the specifics of that, going out for a walk. So connecting to your environment could be connecting to your family members, listening at that point. Going outside is the fourth one, taking a break, going outside, sitting in your garden, or going for a walk, as I mentioned. Check your thoughts, looking at the positive thoughts versus the negative thoughts.
Dianne, you mentioned one of those 5 is making connections. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs or business people, managers can find it very isolating because they can't really open up to their employees about certain stressors, or people that they're managing. During these times, during COVID times, when we have to connect over the computer, which can be an extra stressor, can you give us maybe some tips on connecting through using technology? Is it is it stressing us out even more connecting on technology, or can
Yeah,
we get that connection?
yeah, it definitely is stressing us out more with technology. It's a natural thing that happens. So what happens is that we, with our eyes focused all the time on the computer, there are of course glares that stresses out our thoughts, our minds, and the way in which our eyes focus. So it's important for us to notice that. It's important also for us to notice when we're sitting virtually like this to take breaks. Take breaks every 20 minutes, get away from your computer, notice how your thoughts are, shake it out a little bit outside. 20-minute intervals will really help to give you a better sense of how to cope. So 20 minutes on the computer, take 20 minutes off, then go back again and repeat the cycle in that respect. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I wanted to ask you about sort of the 5 tips, and I know that there's a few more out there. Exercising, eating well, having a hobby, sleeping well. If
Yeah.
if you sort of pay attention to maybe one and not the other, are they kind of taking away from each other a little bit? Maybe you eat really well, but to unwind, you maybe have a little too many glasses of wine or something like that, which
Yeah.
is you're sleeping. So
Yeah. Yeah.
is there a balance there?
Yeah, well, alcohol intake has gone up in our region. So let's try and temper it down, folks, because we're going through a lot of stress right now and people are trying external applications to feel less stressed. So alcohol is a go-to for that scenario for some. Yeah, that can contradict what you're trying to do in your self-care regimen. If you're trying to eat well, if you're trying to eat more vegetables, let's say, which does its own magical work on your body, it's important for you to give yourself a cut back or a cut down on your intake of wine. It's not up to me to tell you not to drink at all if that's not where you want to go. But yeah, notice how many glasses of wine you're having. at the dinner table, for instance, increase of your intake of vegetables, let's say, and you'll notice a difference in how you react to stress, and that lots of greens will help you very effectively. So I'm just choosing that as one example, for instance, of how something like drinking glasses of wine can contradict what you're doing with trying to eat healthy, which is a way in which you can build your immune system and be well overall.
So it is more of a balance. You can't just eat super healthy and not get a good night's sleep. You've really got to pay attention to all the factors.
All the factors in that respect. If you can do a little bit of all, that's wonderful. If you can focus on just the top 3 for you that you can manage right now, that's important. So let's say you increase your intake of greens. With your sleep, make sure you go to bed, let's say at 10, for instance, and give yourself a proper 7 to 8 hours sleep. That's something to think about, because within those time frames when you're sleeping, your body needs to heal, and your body is set up to heal in those times, okay? So between the moments of 11 until, let's say, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, that's where your body heals the most. So if you give yourself that time to heal, you'll see a great benefit the next day and the day after if you keep that momentum going. And likewise, if you also go outside and take walks, that could be as simple as your exercise regimen is. So if you focus on those 3, increase your greens, look at how you sleep. There's a whole science in sleeping that could be discussed, but we don't have enough time here to talk about that. But the important thing is that, and when I teach people how to sleep effectively, help them to prepare for sleep, etc., the benefits that they can reap is wonderful. Doesn't mean that you're going to always meet those expectations head on and be perfect in that. No, we all sometimes lapse in our sleep applications. And again, forgive yourself for that, because again, we're not perfect. But if you can maintain it, about 3 of those techniques that I just mentioned, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. Just looking at the chat here, a couple more questions coming in. So we mentioned eating healthy. Someone's asking, are there certain types of foods I could be eating to help manage my stressors?
Yeah, more greens, definitely. If you can look at that, your body type will determine what you absorb more efficiently. So I would have to actually do an assessment to see what greens will actually benefit you, because though most greens are good for most people, some folks, it doesn't digest well depending on how their gut health is. Microbiome is a big part of the picture when you look at your mental health. So it's important for you to eat the proper types of vegetables for you and who you are and what your body can actually take and absorb. Because if we're eating all the things that looks right because the person next to us is eating the same thing, doesn't mean it's going to affect us in the way that it needs to, because our bodies are different. Your body is different from the person next to you. So it's important for you to be assessed to see what your microbiome is like. That's one thing. And also to get a better sense of what historically, what has led to your gut being the health that it is right now. Does that answer the question? I hope.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Now someone is asking, so they have trouble doing mindful breathing without some kind of audio help, like a narrator or guide or nature sounds. Do you have any recommendations on doing mindful breathing in those circumstances?
Yes, actually, I teach a lot of beginners or people who say they hate meditations and mindful exercises. So the important thing is always to find the right person that can help you and meet you where you are. That's one of the key things to helping someone who's new or has had difficulty doing it up until this point. So for myself, when I'm treating someone, let's say like you, or welcoming someone like you into my practice, I would find out a little bit more about you, how you operate, and doing that stress test really gives me an insight into each of you who have taken that test. So if you were to come to me and do that, then I would understand better what you need in order for you to do a mindfulness a regimen or routine on a daily basis, because it has to be personalized to you. And so a lot of the times people will download the apps online, and some of those works for the general public, but there are individuals who have real difficulty doing mindfulness techniques and practices and meditations and literally hate it. And then I've had students who hate it turn out loving it because of my adapting to what they need, and they learn to love it on their own time.
And I'm sure a lot of those apps, it just depends on your personality and what sort of calms you down. I know my husband loves listening to white noise and vacuum cleaners, but that those kinds of noises stress me out. So I'm sure it's different for everyone. I'm sure if it's working to calm you down, then go ahead and go for it, right?
Yeah, that's one element, and then there are other aspects that come into play as well, along with sounds, etc. That's part of it. But to maintain an actual practice requires a deeper understanding of the full picture of that, how it applies to you. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Dianne, I wanted to ask you, I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, I just have no time for this. There's no way that this is going to help me at all. You know, if I take 20-minute break, that's 20 minutes I could be making money. But I know that there's a lot of research out there saying that the opposite, and that it's actually going to make you more productive. Can you maybe elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, productivity requires that you stand still for a moment. Because if you're running on empty, those hours that you take doing things when you're incapable of actually being optimal in your use of your energy actually defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do. And you may actually get a mistake that you cannot overturn. And you may not be able to then see that mistake as a lesson if you're still depleted, right? So taking that time to pause is really important for small business people to do. And I encourage you to find those moments of pause in your day, because it is challenging for you to not listen to that. It is very challenging. So listen to your body. It's so important to listen to your body.
That's such important information. Thank you so much, Dianne. Dianne, I wanted to ask you about COVID time specifically. I know you're an expert on work-life balance. A lot of us are working from home. As you can see here, I'm working from home. Our team's been working from home since March. Do you have any tips on maybe sort of shutting yourself off at the end of the day? Anything where you can sort of separate that work-life balance as it gets harder, now that our lives are sort of, there's a lot of gray areas in our lives nowadays?
There's a lot of that. Shutting down is so hard at the end of the day. And it's so difficult because you're trying to create that space between you and your family, your workspace and your family space. And it's so hard. And one of the tips I would give, and this is one tip that I would give, really define the space where you work and leave it as your workspace. Even if it's a corner table that you say, this is mommy's space, or this is daddy's space, or this is my space, really make that decision yours to make, you're deciding, and then you share that with your family members or whoever it is that you're sharing your space with overall. Just let them know that space is my space. If it's a table that you share with everybody else at any given time, to say, okay, between these hours, I'm at this location. No one come here, no one come inside. I love you all, but please do not touch anything on this table between this hour and that hour. Don't do it, right? So basically letting yourself be heard, saying no, but saying yes at the same time, letting them know when you're able to welcome them back into that space.
Right, going back to the other tip that you said, learn how to say no and learn how to say yes at those times.
Exactly.
Is a routine sort of at the end of the day important? I had heard someone talking about, sort of maybe turning the lights off, turning the computer off, maybe changing your clothes at the end of the day are some helpful things to...
Very key, yeah. It's important for you to get out of your work clothes at the end of the day. And yes, it's important for you to get out of that room or turning your computer down or off And also it's important for you to just shake off that energy by shifting out of the space. You can go for a walk before you transition back into your home, for instance, right? So little things like that. Again, that's part of your daily routine, your daily regimen. So that's key. Think of what makes you feel happiest to do, right? If you need about 15 minutes before you go back into your family life from your space that you've created as a home office, then say that as well. I'm taking 15 minutes to half an hour to myself, please. Again, I love you, but give me that moment so that I can be all that I am when I come to see you, right? And I'm not bringing my grouchiness or my, irritation or my absent-mindedness to our family interactions or our marriage, so to speak. Right?
Yeah, that's so important.
Yeah.
I just thought of another question. We keep talking about entrepreneurs and small business owners. There may be some people joining us on this call that are not owners of their own company, and maybe they don't have the luxury of. I've heard a lot of new tools that are being put onto work computers, tracking people's time. Is there any kind of tip you can give on for maybe employees of how to ask their employer for that time? Can I have 20 minutes to go for a walk? Maybe flex time in their day. Maybe they work a little bit longer, something like that.
Yeah, especially now when we're in a strange time right now where there are people who are overworked right now, and then there are people who are underworked. We seem to have that dichotomy. It hasn't been this distinct in what seems like forever to me, but it's so distinct right now. There's underemployed, and then there's that extreme work. People working overtime quite often every day because they're making up for the times that they've lost. Now, in these times, it's important. It would behoove the employer to actually set those time in place, actually, from a leadership standpoint, because they don't want to burn out their employee. It makes no sense to burn out your staff's energy because you're trying to catch up. And I understand that you're trying to catch up, but understand the transition point now. That into your day at work. Okay, guys, take 20 minutes, take 30 minutes even, and go ahead and you can have this many for the week, let's say, and you can choose when you do that kind of thing. So incorporate that into the day somehow, discuss it with your team, and make sure you have it, because you want to make sure that people are feeling as though they're a part of something and that they're being heard, and also that you care about them as an employer. So the employee has that need to ask for it. Feel free to ask for it and see if your boss is open to it. But the boss, being the leader, should actually initiate it to show the care, because that in itself will be a mental health benefit for the staff to feel as though they're cared for.
I think it sort of goes back to what you were saying about your even with your family. You have to ask them to give you that space. So and asking your employer, I think I'm going to work better if I'm able to take 20-minute breaks, and then as the leader, recognizing that
recognizing that need, and realizing that people are important to profit for your business, but recognizing that people ideally are really important to those moments in your company, that people are the ones that make it happen. So you're acknowledging that truth as well, and having a dialogue to understand where one ends and the other begins, and how it all works together is important. Each group will discuss it the way they need to, but it's important to have that open dialogue. The open dialogue is key, and how one listens is really key in that.
Yeah, great information. Thank you so much. Dianne, do you want to, I'll put it out there if anyone else wants to put in a question to Dianne. Please feel free. We'll keep an eye on the chat. But Dianne, would you like to maybe kind of give us your closing thoughts on how we should move forward?
Yeah, moving forward, everyone, just really be patient with yourself and forgive yourself. I find a lot of the times we carry guilt as entrepreneurs and business people, but as individuals as well, we carry a lot of luggage from our past into now. If we can start to forgive ourselves, let go of the things that we cannot control anymore, and just acknowledge what is it that worked well for you right now. If you can think of that one thing. And in that, by acknowledging that one thing, you're actually saying and putting out there a feeling of gratitude. When you notice what's going well, you're actually in a big way showing that you're grateful for that one thing. And then see if you can find a second thing and a third. If you can find 3 things that you're grateful for each day, let me know how it benefits you by the end of this week.
That's great, Dianne. I know I have learned so much myself here just on this call. I think that all of this information is kind of information that was, sort of brushed aside maybe in
Mhm.
past years, and a lot of people sort of had the thinking that, oh, that's rubbish. I just need to keep working hard and putting in the hours, and but as we've seen, the research shows that actually taking care of yourself is really going to help you in all of the other facets of your life. So I so
Yeah.
appreciate your time here today. I can't thank you enough for joining us and giving our members this information. So to our attendees, I just want to let you know that, as we mentioned earlier, making connections is a very important thing, especially during this time. So on Thursday at 5:30 p.m., we have a Next Niagara Summer Social Distance Social. So grab your favorite craft drink and meet us on the virtual patio to make some connections. So we'll see you there. We also, on Thursday morning, we have another webinar coming up, and that's on succession planning. So we've noticed a lot of people are sort of starting to think about, maybe what should I do? COVID has sort of got people thinking, should I take a little more me time and self-care time and maybe retire a little bit early? So join us on that, presented by TD, some great information on succession planning and potentially moving out of your business. And I just want to say another thank you to YMCA. We could not put this event on without your support. So please make sure to check them out. And for all of our attendees, we will be following up with an email to all of you. We will give you Dianne's contact information, and we'll be giving you the information to connect about your free 20-minute consultation. So thank you so much, Dianne, for providing that to all of our attendees today. And other than that, I hope that you all stay safe and healthy and take care. Thank you so much for joining us.